Is the prevalence of social media and the internet and information adding to the speeding of the evolution of human beings and the ease of mobilization within people, which is leading to more clashes among different groups? So, welcome to the Mad Hatter Radio, another episode. Of course, with yours, the Mad Hatter, reporting live from the Upside Down world. And this go around, I want to talk about some of the protests or quote unquote protests that are happening in Poland. So apparently, Poland's supposed to be celebrating their Independence Day, but it's really turned into kind of a pro-Nazi, fascist parade. Now, I do want to give the disclaimer and go ahead and say that I'm not from any of these countries. I don't know the full history of these countries. I do know some of the history that's been presented. Um, so, I do understand that a lot of these countries are seeing an influx of Muslims and Africans and people that basically are different and look different and have different cultures, right? And there is an increasing need, I get it, to fight against the NWO, the New World Order, and this kind of consolidation of power, especially in Europe. So there's more of a need to kind of protect their sovereignty. But there is a balance, I think, between protecting your sovereignty and not becoming racist or and not allowing the same, I guess, environment to occur that led to the Holocaust, right? So this march in Poland was organized by the heirs to the same people that led the movement that led to the Holocaust, the persecution of Jews in the Holocaust. So that is like one little red flag about that. Not saying that everybody in this march wants to see Jews die, but from what I've been reading and from what I've seen and the evidence that's been out there, it is anti-Jew and anti-Muslim, which says something. So you know what this channel's about. I'm obviously for black empowerment, but I'm for the empowerment of all people. But I think that black people need to do a better job at empowering themselves before we can move on and start preaching for the empowerment of others. So I'm always for the empowerment of black people first. And I will, having said that, I will say that, white people around the world are linking up, to basically preserve whiteness. So what are we going to do as people of color, as black people? Like, we have to also step up and start protecting ourselves. It's not to say that every white person is, a part of this and thinks that, white people are superior. But as people of color, and especially as black people, we have to stand up for ourselves and we have to start protecting ourselves and the people like us and stop fighting amongst ourselves. So that's why I will always preach for black sovereignty. So these people in Poland are also, and they come from other countries. They also come from Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic. And I'll get back into kind of why those countries are important. Um, but I think the crazy thing about this is that white people are linking up around the world, um, and a lot of it they're getting the cue from Trump. Not only are people being enabled within this country to be more openly racist, especially the hegemony, the people in power, which happen to be white people. Yes, doesn't mean again all white people are bad, but the people in power who tend to protect other people like them, they're going to protect older white men. So Trump is an older white guy. He's got a lot of things. He's got a lot of things on his side, and people are taking that cue from him. And you're seeing it where people are becoming more empowered within the United States to speak out about how they've always felt, and they don't necessarily want to deal with the consequences. And you're seeing it over here. They have this whole thing where they're following this Trump quote apparently, where he said, "We want God." Well, what they're saying is they want God. I'm not sure if I remember the exact quote that Trump used, but I do remember that he said that like we need more God, like we need to follow God, which is interesting, being that Trump is basically a guy who worships money and not God. So Trump is not a. I mean, he might have been raised one way or another, but knowing Trump and knowing like his lifestyle and how he was more associated with leftists who typically are atheists, I don't think that Trump believes in God, but that's what these people are using this idea of manifest destiny, to support these marches, which these marches are scary, man. There's like tens of thousands of these people in the streets preaching for, pro-whiteness. And I'm not saying that they don't have the right to do that. To do that, obviously they do. But again, there's a balance between being pro-white or maybe even just being pro-nation and supporting your nation and then going over too far and becoming racist and supporting the same ideologies that led to the Holocaust, right? So some other things that we need to realize about the situation um, is that Poland, the media is controlled by the government, and the government propagates, crimes committed by Muslims. Like they really push that out there. And it's a similar thing that happens in the United States media, where crimes committed by patriots, aka white Anglo-Saxons, those type of crimes are met with sympathetic backstories, and they're basically seen. Those people are seen as having a mental illness. But when it's somebody who is from the other, somebody who's not a part of that group, it's seen as those people have a specific intention to spread fear, you know, and they are just a small part of the larger picture, you know. And the last thing, so this article, I was reading this article, all this information I'm getting, not all of it, but most of this information I'm getting is from the Wall Street Journal. And it's really interesting to see that what they're writing about is that, these countries, Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic, they're basically, they've been for the most part recession proof. They haven't seen like any major economic contractions happen since, the major economic collapse that happened like in 2008. But there is this fear that distant elites are pulling the strings, right? So there's this connection between these wealthy countries and this idea that, the Jews or you know, these liberal Jews are kind of pulling the strings, which you can kind of say that if you look at Hollywood in some cases. I'm not going to get too deep into that because I know that's a very touchy subject, right? But whatever the case is, they believe that these people are pulling the strings, right? So it's almost like it's the same similar thing that's happening in the U.S. where there's like a big conspiracy theory, populace, and they believe, and I'm a conspiracy theorist myself, but there is a relationship that I think that's between these wealthy countries that have something to lose to begin with, and so that's why they believe that there's more of a conspiracy that they're going to lose what they have, right? So that is, going back to the idea of privilege. The privileged countries are the ones that are almost acting the more insane. So I want to leave that there. Definitely let me know what you guys think. Appreciate you guys checking me out. If you like my channel, if you like what I have to say, give me a thumbs up. Give me a subscribe, leave a comment, interact with this page, interact with other people. And again, thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.